our very own Dada, renowned Indian cricketer, former captain, cricket team of India, Mr. Sourav Ganguly.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
For us in India, cricket is far more than just a sport, as we all know. His career as a captain is equally illustrious, leading India through some of his most defining moments. Mr. Ganguly is widely regarded as one of the most successful captains of our national team. We are really eager to hear more from him.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have some questions. I think that I will just jump into if that's okay. So growing up, who were the key figures or moments that inspired you to pursue cricket seriously? Was there ever a moment in your childhood when you knew cricket was your calling, or it driven up over time?
You know, we grew up in a different generation of the sport. And you know, as in everything in life, business evolves, sport also evolved. I remember getting my first pay for a Ranji Trophy game, which was 400 rupees. So we grew up in that generation, and for whom playing sports was out of love, out of wanting to play the sport, not knowing where it will take you. So players like myself, Sachin, Rahul, players previously to our generation like the greats of Kapil Dev, Gavaskar, all grew up in a generation where sports had no financial security, and you know, that was something which we have seen, and I've seen actually the transformation over the 20 years period from say 1990 to 2010 when IPL came in, finances came in the sport, and BCCI became the most powerful and the richest cricket body in the world. So I've seen that transformation. So for someone like us of that generation, we did not know where this was going. As you said, we just kept playing, just like everything in life. When you start a business, you start from scratch and hope that someday you'll be successful business-wise and financially. And I think as individuals of our generation, we played the sport, playing for the country was a huge honor, which I believe it still is. But I've actually seen the transformation from where children now can actually think of it as a career, as a life, most importantly financially. And I think that's the best thing about sport. So for someone like us, we just played the game, not knowing where it will take us. And by the grace of God, it took us in the right direction. And we're very fortunate to be around for such a long period of time. I've actually played 500 games for him, along with the likes of Dravid, Sachin, and now Kohli and Dhoni, and Rohit Sharma. So probably these are the 6 players in the history of Indian cricket who played almost 500 games for India. So from that point of view, it was a journey, and I believe that everything in life is a journey. You know, you're a young entrepreneur yourself. You know, you started your business, you will progress, you will get to greater heights in the next 10, 15 years, but you don't know where it will take you. It's something which is very important to you. As playing the sport was very important to me, playing for the country was very important to me, and then with time things evolved.
I feel that when you took over as captain, it really revitalized the Indian cricket team again. The winning mentality came back. So was there some early experience in your childhood or in your formative years that really led to you leading or influencing the Indian cricket or the team in such a way?
You know, for me, leadership is about ambition. Leadership is about what you look at it. You know, no 2% will be similar. No two individual leaders will have the same way of leading institutions or teams or whatever they are in a position of leadership in their workplace. So for me, when I became captain in the year 2000, for me, my experiences of leadership was a lot of a young player when I first came into the team in 1996. You know, understanding the pressures of the sport, understanding the pressures of an individual, of a young player who's trying to establish himself in the world stage. So a lot of my experiences as a non-leader was important in my journey of leadership. And when young players came in, I made sure that they have a atmosphere to perform. They have the right kind of people backing them to perform, and they probably get the right mindset to perform. And I think that's very important in leadership. So I did not read the book of the art of captaincy or anything. I just did what my gut feel said, and a lot of it was from my experiences as a player. The pressures I went through. There are times, in your career when you start, that you have 1 or 2 games to make or break your life. You succeed. If you don't succeed, somebody else succeeds. And I think that really helped me in nurturing young players. Giving them a platform, giving them an opportunity where there is no fear. The opportunity and the requirement was to perform and play to the best. Rest did not matter. So for me, leadership, there's a whole lot of things about leadership, and it could take me a whole evening talking about it. But I think it's about your vision. It's about what you want as a captain. When I first became captain in 2000, we were a great side. We were a great side at home. We would beat teams at home because we had the greatest spinners ever. But when we went away from India, we had tremendous individual performances. The likes of Sachin, Dravid, Azhar was there before me. There was Manjarekar, Gavaskar, who would have great individual performances. But when he went away to Australia and England, where it was seaming, bouncing, there's a lot of pace, you knew at the day 5, more number of times as a team you would succeed. So as a leader, it was important to have that vision of being respected when going away. It's not just when you come home and you get pitches with spin and you have the best spinners in the world and you win cricket matches. But it's about getting the respect away in that generation. And I learned a lot from the Australians in that period. They were probably the best cricket team in the last 35, 40 years I've seen, other than the West Indies in 1975. And what they did was, they had the talent to win at home and the talent to go away and win. And I think that was something which I wanted to do. And I was fortunate, as I say, wherever I get an opportunity to speak, that I have had the fortune of leading people who would actually easily be captain in that team. The likes of Dravid, Sachin, BVS, Anil, they would be captain of India before I was captain of India. So I consider myself fortunate to be in a position to lead such champions who are all-time greats in Indian cricket. And I actually could see the transformation, because for me, I may be captain, but they were also leader in my group. And I firmly believed in a team. I firmly believed in everybody feeling it as a team, not just as a captain, because single-handedly you don't win cricket matches. You have 11, 12 players who actually win. So it was important that they also be a part of the leadership group in your journey to success.
I think that is the mark of a true leader, when you're not taking all the accolades and all the praise, but you're sharing it with your team. I think that marks a real leader.
I just add on to it, Abu. I firmly believe in sport, in business, you hire individuals to tell you what to do, and it's never the other way around. Sometimes we feel that when we get into positions of leadership, when we get into positions where we have the power and authority to decide and take decisions, we actually forget the people who make you successful as well. And I think that's very important. That's very important for individuals to understand that India will only win if a Tendulkar, Dravid, Lakshman, whoever of the 11 perform. It's not just about the captain or a Sourav Ganguly or a Rohit Sharma at the current moment. And I think that understanding is important. You have people around you who will help you to win cricket matches.
There are a lot of things that you can take from on the field to into your boardroom as well. And like you're sharing these examples is rightly so. I think there's so much learning that comes from playing a sport, playing a team sport, that we can include in our corporate life.
Yeah, absolutely. And in life, I believe there's a lot of senior people in this room who've probably seen a lot more than I have. Your life off the field decides what you do on the field. And I think that's very important. It's a sign of your character. It's a sign of your inner self. It's a sign of what you're made of. And I've always believed that you carry on the field what you are off the field. And I think that's very, very important.
Moving away from cricket a little bit, you recently become an owner of Kolkata Royal Tigers racing team. Racing is a relatively new area for you. What sparked your interest in promoting the sport, and what are your expectations from the team and the sport in India?
I've been involved in various sporting teams. The closest probably is Delhi Capitals to me. and I share the team with your family. So that is probably the closest to my heart. But many of these teams I just get forced into it to find a way to popularize it, find a way to market it, and make that sport popular among the people. With racing just like football, when we came in 2014, I was the we were the first group of teams who started the ISL, being a part of Mohan Bagan. No sport in this country is as blessed as cricket. So every sport has a challenge, whether it's football, whether it's racing, whether it's tennis, whether it's badminton. Every sport has a challenge in its own way. And I think the racing league, it has a challenge on its own. But as you know, Formula One is so popular around the world, although it's not to the stage of Formula One yet. It's Formula 4, Formula 3 at the moment. But then, you begin with something. When IPL came to India, nobody thought that T20 cricket and 4 or 5 hours of cricket would become so popular all around the world. So I think everything has a start, and then you take it to success, and then you take it to greatness. So for me, motorsport in India is one. But what sets India apart from any other part of the world is our country. It's a country where the acceptance of new things are much more than anywhere else in the world. I keep saying to everyone, we go to England, we go to America, we go to Europe, to other parts of countries outside India. For me, they're only good for vacations. There is no better country than India. There is no better country than India from sporting prospect, from work prospect, and it's the people who make things so successful. And I think it's a journey which the motorsport will have to take, or any sport. Badminton has come across such a long way when it started. When you look at the Olympics, when you look at the Asian Games, what India was 10 years ago, and what India is now is like chalk and cheese. You look at women's cricket. Women's cricket has evolved immensely. So you got to give everything a little bit of time. You cannot compare everything with cricket, where cricket is gone. But I'm sure with time, every sport has a place in this country.
I completely agree with you, and I think more and more of this is required, because we definitely want to see an Indian F1 driver. We definitely want to see India competing in a FIFA World Cup. These are something that as a kid even I've been dreaming of and waiting for. So more of your involvement and people like you taking these other sports other than cricket will really revitalize them.
Yeah, I think it's a lot also about infrastructure. Whether it's motorsport, whether it's football, whether it's hockey. Hockey in India is the top team in the world. It's about what infrastructure you give to athletes. With infrastructure, athletes get better. And I think that should be the biggest challenge and the biggest, I would say, the plan which every sporting body should look at. Because at the end of the day, the sport is made popular, bigger or smaller by the people who participate in it. And as long as they get the infrastructure to participate, I'm sure there will be improvement.
Absolutely. Now coming back again to cricket and mixing it with the corporate world again, building a winning team. That is something that you have done tremendously time and again in your career. How do you identify and nurture talent, whether it be on the field or off the field? Any example you can share? Or
in sport, nurturing talent is about gut feeling. There is a lot more systematic way of doing it in business, in doing it in other aspects of life, but sport is about real life. Sport is about doing things at that particular moment, because when you're playing a Brett Lee or a Shoaib Akhtar or a Dale Steyn bowling at 90 miles an hour, you have a fraction of a second to decide. And if you nick it, if you get out, you don't get a second chance. So sport is about real. Sport is about at that particular moment. So it is different. And I'll just take your question also.
It was more that how do you identify and nurture talent?
So when I look at talent, I look at the ability. I look at the match-winning ability. During my career, there was a lot of young players who played in that team, the likes of Sehwag, likes of Yuvraj, Sahil, Harbhajan. Sachin was already a superstar by the time I walked into the team and got my captaincy. every captain, as I said, has different way of looking at teams and cricket matches. In India, over the years, I've had different captains with different attitudes. Someone like me who was probably different on the cricket field. Then you had Rahul Dravid, who was quiet and resilient. Then you had MS Dhoni, who have showed no emotions on a cricket field but was enormously successful. So everyone had their own way of delivering, of their own way of winning matches. So for me, it was about the gut feel about an individual, yes, backed by certain bit of talent. If I have to pick, because we could only pick 11 out of millions who play the game, if I had to pick between an X and a Y, who has the same amount of runs and the same performances over a period of time, I will actually pick the person who has more match winning abilities. Because I believe that cricket matches are here to be won or to be lost. There's nothing in between. You either win or you lose. So if an individual is performing, if an individual is scoring runs, you should actually put his team in a position to win. There have been great players over the years who've actually scored runs, but the team didn't win because of the impact of those runs. And that's why people like Sehwag, people like Yuvraj, MS Dhoni, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli of this generation have so much impact on games. And I think that's very important. It's your eye to identify talent. Once you have talent, because as you said, there's a lot more systematic approach in business. There's degrees, there's work experience, how much time he has spent with other companies, where he has taken to other companies. But sometimes in sport, you don't have that opportunity. When you pick a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old who's just raw and talented, so you have to use your gut feel at times to see whether he's capable enough of taking you ahead. And I think that's very important in leadership. It's about the eye you have for talent.
Anything that you can tell us about learning from a failure or how to overcome a setback? Like 2003 World Cup finals, India played the best. That tournament, India was definitely the best. I think all of us here were sure that India was going to win. And obviously, we all know what happened. So, how did you get the team out of it, or was it something a really difficult part, or really difficult?
No. I think setbacks and failures are a part of life. In sport, it is even more apparent than anything else. Because the best question one journalist asked me, that when I finished playing, what you miss the most? I said, I miss that challenge. I miss that challenge of waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and getting ready for a match. That pressure, the nervousness of being a success or a failure. The entire world is watching. And then by 4 o'clock in the evening, you're either a success or a failure. And it happens everything in quick time. But at the same time that you go back and start from scratch. So failures are a part of every professional's career. For me, it was important that when you succeeded, how much you succeeded. And when you look at Sachin, he's played 700 games for India. He's got 100 international hundreds, which is a phenomenal achievement. But having said that, he also has underperformed in 600 games of his career. So that's a part of life. You have to find a way to get back, and I'm sure it's in business as well. With the pressures you'll go through, you don't have every quarters which have the same amount of profits. You go up and down, you go through a cycle of success and failure, and then by the end of a year, by the end of the cycle, you judge yourself that whether I've progressed or I've not progressed. And it's a similar thing in life with failures. You will fail. The best in the business fail, but the most successful ones succeed more than they fail. And I think that's very important. It's about the most important mindset in sport is about the belief that every morning when I wake up to go and play, when I wake up to go and succeed, it's going to be my day. It will not be all the time, but what is going to stand with you and what is going to be with you in tough times is that belief that I will succeed. And you have your ways of succeeding. So I've always said to individuals, the best fail and the best recover quickly more than the others from failure. I think that's very important.
Very well put. That's a big learning for all of us, and I will try to follow that as well. To keep yourself motivated, you keep telling yourself.
Because because yesterday has no meaning. You don't have control over the future, and if you keep worrying about the failures of the past, it will not give you confidence. So it's about that particular day. It's about that particular innings, whether you succeed or you don't. If you succeed, you get yourself ready for the next one. Sometimes in life, we think too far ahead. That, I've got a season, I've got 12 matches in the season, 12 tests in the season, I need this much amount of runs at the end of the season. All what it does is put so much pressure on you. What you need to do is that game. How you perform that game, and then you go to the next game, and then you go to the next game. And that's how you progress.
No, I think that's so much to learn, and again, I can see so many parallels between the sporting world and the corporate world. It's amazing. Now you've also become the Bengal brand ambassador on 21st November 2023. What are your thoughts and actions for Bengal in industry? And you have also said you want to make Bengal a sporting superpower. How will you do that?
Well, to be honest, I don't get involved in making Bengal a superpower in the industry. Obviously, the powers are somewhere else. But I, just like all of you, I also want to see the state progress. I obviously promote the positive aspects of the state, but it's not within my jurisdiction to create the positive aspects of the state. So, just like many of you, I also invest in small ways I can. As you know, we're building another steel plant in Midnapur, and we'll take about 18 to 20 months to start the first production. And your family is in steel, they're stalwarts in steel. So everyone has their own way of doing, but just like all of us, we want to see this state prosper. We want to see job opportunities for everyone, especially the youth, who spend so much time in colleges and universities, harnessing their skills and trying to get better. So, for me, that's what progress is all about. When you create opportunities for the youth of the country, and I'm sure with your background in the business world, you've seen that in other states as well. States like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and many other, Orissa, who have actually made rapid strides in the business world over the last 10, 15 years, and I'm sure Bengal will do it. And I think that's very important for me.
I think I'd like to come back to the topic of failure, because to me personally, failure is actually the best teacher, the best learner. So can you share a story where you learned a lot from a failure and how it maybe helped you, shaped you as a leader you are today?
The most important thing failure teaches you is not to take success for granted. I remember playing a series against Pakistan in 2003. I couldn't get a run. I was captain of India then, and obviously Pakistan had a fantastic bowling team. I could not put the ball off the square. And there was a time before the third test match, I couldn't sleep the whole night, thinking that where will I get a run from someone like Shoaib, Wazeem, Waqar, because I was completely out of form. But it also helped me to become mentally very stronger, because 3 years later, when I played the same squad, the same team in India, I scored my highest test ever run, which was 239 in Bangalore. So, failures actually have taught me that, and I'm sure it does with all of you here, is that, don't take things for granted. Don't expect that because you've done well in 2002, you're going to do well in 2003, or when you've done well in 2024, you're going to do well in 2025. What it teaches you is to get up every morning and strive for success with the same intensity, with the same hard work, and with the same application. The best thing, once I'd asked Sachin, when I obviously spent a lot of time with him playing, and I asked him, what is it that kept you so good, so successful, and so consistent for a period of 24 years? And I remembered one thing which he told me. He said, I came in as a very talented young player with a lot of gifts from the God about the game, but I kept working harder year after year, season after season. I had my own ways of doing it. The way I work, the way I train may not be the same as you do, or may not be the same as XYZ does, but I had my own way of being successful. And I think that's very important. It's about not taking granted what's going to come to you tomorrow because of your good performance of what you've done the year before. I think that's very important. What has happened, good or bad, is gone. What is in store is something which you have to strive for excellence.
No, I think I'm really taking a lot from this conversation. I'm really being enriched and so much takeaways for me to also kind of think about and kind of learn from my past experiences how I can implement what you are talking about.
Public scrutiny actually makes you harder, makes you tough. And we lived in a sport where we were scrutinized by everyone. From your mom, dad, from your driver, from your servant, from the media, from the crowd. The same crowd on a Saturday morning said you were the best, and the same one on Wednesday said you couldn't play. So you had to go through that screening every time. And it was something which I learned as an individual. And I keep saying to everyone that other than learning how to play the game, the cuts and the pulls and the drives and the defense, this game gave me a character. Gave me a character to stand up at different times. Gave me a character to understand what is right, what is wrong, and gave me a character also to handle situations. Because when you walked into that path, it was only you and no one else. You had no secretary, you had no executive, you had no one to help you because it was just the ball and your bat. You had to take your decisions, you had to stand up for your decisions, and you had to make your own career. So I think along with the name and the fame which I got from this game, it has actually given me a lot of strength in terms of my character.
Amazing. You've worn many hats over the years, even till today you're wearing multiple hats. Which one of these roles do you miss the most? And which one gave you the most satisfaction?
I think playing cricket for India is probably the best thing I did in my life. In that journey I became captain. Those 7 years were unbelievably memorable for me. Then as you said, I've worn many hats after that. I've been president of huge organizations, put in leadership roles of many a number of times. But nothing gave more satisfaction than batting for it. Because that was something special. Because you trained hard, you practiced hard to be successful, and then when you became successful at the end of the game, there was nothing more satisfying than that. And I think that will always remain special. And I've seen the transformation from, as I said, 400 rupees for a Ranji Trophy game for a 20 crore IPL deal of 2 months. So I've actually seen that transformation in sport. So there's nothing more than batting or bowling for India. I think that will always remain special to any cricketer.
I think not only for any cricketer, for any Indian, I would say that all of us growing up, it was always our dream that we want to represent Indian cricket. So absolutely I agree with you. Final question for me before we open it up to the audience. Any key life lesson that you would like to pass on to the younger generation, particularly those who are struggling with their career or are uncertain of how to move ahead?
I have a very simple thing in life, and I don't know whether all of you will believe or you will agree to what I say. I've always said that hard work never goes for a waste. Success may take a little bit of time, but if you keep working hard and keep doing the right things, you will succeed in life. Whether it's in sport, whether it's in business, whether it's in film, whether it's in music, anything you do. There is no substitute for hard work. And all those who feel that there is an easier option in life, you're on the wrong profession.
True words of wisdom. I completely agree, Dada, with you. I think your stories and your journey has been an inspiration for all of us and will continue to be for many generations to come. I'd like to open the floor for some questions.
I'm such a big fan that when you joined the Pune team, and I started supporting Pune. I have a request and a question. My request is arguably the most famous image of yours is your celebration at Lord's, the NatWest final. So we would like you to regale us with the story behind your celebration. And my question is, what are your expectations from India's upcoming tour to Australia and the World Test Championship final? And what do you think we should do to break the jinx the third time now?
First question is, what made me do that? because it was a young boy who was happy. I don't think I will ever do that in my life with anything. We beat England in England, and I was in 2002. I was about 29 years old, and beating England at Lords on a Saturday was a dream. It's like India's home game at Lords. The best place, or probably the most historic place to play cricket. And then when an Indian team goes and wins on a Saturday afternoon, it's an unbelievable atmosphere. So probably that was one of the reasons I lost control of myself. And 6 months before, when England came to India, they leveled the series, and one of my dear friend did the same thing in Montreal. So a young boy who was, young blood, I did it, and I don't think I can ever do that again. Coming back to your second question,
We loved it. We loved it.
There was a time when during that period after I finished playing 2013, 14, 15, I used to open television to watch cricket, and I used to only see the visuals on Star Sports. So I actually called up one day the CEO of Star and said, Chief, I've got 20,000 runs for India. The only people who has got more runs than me is Sachin and Dravid during that time, and obviously now Virat has gone ahead of me. So I said, I'm the third highest run getter in the history of Indian sport, and I've got two great people just ahead of me. Can I see some of my cover drives and cuts instead of that bare t-shirt every evening at 7 o'clock? So they said, no, I can still show you cover drives and cuts, but we can't change that picture. Luckily, after that, with a lot of India wins, that picture has slowly started to go in the back room of the production houses. Secondly, coming back to India's chances in Australia, it's going to be a tough series, because Australia is a very difficult side. I know India did well in 2017, India did well in 2019, but since then that Australian team is a much tougher and a stronger team. But then, Indian cricket also has evolved immensely. You could imagine that in 8 months' time, India goes to final of 2 World Cups, loses one, wins one, and I think that's the greatness of the side. I remember in 2001, 2 and 2003 when I was captain, we played 30 World Cup matches and we lost 2, and it was 2 finals, one to Australia and the other one was to New Zealand. We hadn't lost a game during that period, and I see the same thing with this team. When they went to the final at Ahmedabad against Australia and they lost, and then they went back to the T20 World Cup in 8 months' time and went undefeated to beat South Africa in that final. So this is a very strong Indian side. But at the same time, they'll have to be very, very careful, because the likes of Rohit, the likes of Kohli are towards the end of their careers. A Kohli in 2017 or a Rohit in 2017 is different from the one in 2024. So they'll really have to play out of their skins to get past Australia. But the positive side is our bowling attack is probably better than Australia's. And it's so good to hear that an Indian team touring Australia with a better fast bowling attack than the Aussies, which I think is the biggest plus point of Indian cricket. When you see the likes of Bumrah, Shami, Shiraz, Akashdeep, Mukesh running in on those wickets, there will be really a handful against those Australian batting. And good test teams have bowling units who get 20 test wickets, and I think India has that. So fingers crossed, it's going to be a tough summer for India, 5 in Australia, 5 in England. And it's going to be a big test for Gautam Gambhir, just like everyone else. When I became captain, we had to go to Australia, Pakistan, and all those tough countries. So, characters and teams and players are only made in tough situations. So I'm sure India will come out of it, and hopefully by the New Year's we'll have a lot to celebrate.
And if you are just like me, there are a number of people out there in this country for whom you have been a virtual mentor. Whenever we meet roadblocks in our life, we come and listen to some of your TED talks and we get re-energized. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You started Dadagiri very late, but then the Dadagiri of the Indian cricket started under your captaincy when we started to see the dominance of the Indian cricket team on the Australian and the England soil. You made Ricky Ponting wait for the toss.
No, I made Steve wait.
And you made Steve wait for the toss. I really like to know the thought behind making Steve wait for the toss. One. And second, there's a lot of talk ever since Sourav came into the Indian cricket team that he was carrying Saurav's kit bag ever since he came. And later on, you packed the bags of dominance of the Australian Indian cricket team. But who used to pack the kit bag of Sourav Ganguly in the dressing room?
Sourav Ganguly himself. Don't think these boys are so nice and gentle to pack the captain's kit bag. They don't do it. So I packed my kit bag myself. That's the first one. Second, your first question was
Steve Waugh
Steve Waugh waiting. It was actually the first time I forgot my blazer in the dressing room. I just become captain, and Australia were a fantastic side. And we lost the first test in Bombay. We got hammered by Australia. And I knew my job was on the line if we didn't come back and win or even level the series. So coming to Calcutta, we had to pick a squad. I didn't know which spinner to play. Kumble was injured that time. Harbhajan was in his first series. So we were a very young team, and I did not know which spinner to pick in that squad. So I was walking into the game, into the toss, with the number 11 not written, because I didn't know whether to play Harbhajan or whether to play Venkatpati Raja. And I said, let me get till the end, and whatever my gut feel says, I'll put it. So doing that, I forgot my blazer. So I saw Steve standing next to the umpire with his blazer, and an Indian captain didn't have a blazer. So I had to wait and go back and get my blazer. And by the time I was 3 or 4 minutes late, and Steve Waugh was fuming. So luckily I put Harbhajan Singh's name and went into the toss, and we lost the toss. Australia batted, but ultimately Harbhajan got 14 wickets that game, and we won the test match. So as I say, good things happen by accident also. So that was the reason. First time he waited, and then I realized that after winning the test match, he was very upset because he made us follow on, and we came back and won it. And I realized that when I went to Chennai for the third test, it was a different Australian team. So in Chennai, I made him wait deliberately. And I remember we beat them in Chennai, in Chepauk, and we won the series 2-1. It was a huge relief for me. Nathan Aubry was in there. So that was one. And then immediately 6 months later, we went to Australia, where we beat Australia and played outstandingly. I remember before the first test, we had the match referees meeting of the rules and everything. And as me and Steve walked out of the match referees meeting, he took me to a corner. It was his last test series, and he said, this is my last series. Make sure you turn up at toss at the right time. So I said, I used to respect him enormously because he was an absolute champion as a batsman, and he resurrected Australian cricket in his own way. So I told him, Captain, you're somebody who I respect enormously, but if you stop writing about me in the media, I'll be at the toss at the right time. And for the 4 test matches, there was not one article on Sourav Ganguly in the newspaper by Steve Waugh, and I used to be at the toss before him every day. So it was just one of those things which happened, and then I realized that it was a different Australian team under pressure. We beat them in Australia also. I remember Adelaide, where we got 400 and we came back and beat them. So the first one was an accident, and the next one was purpose. It was just small mind games which happens on sports.
One or two more questions if you can take.
Historically speaking, the Indian cricket team has been dominated by the Delhi cricket fraternity and the Mumbai cricket fraternity. That's the northern zone and the western zone. With you coming on the scene, there was a welcome change, and then it was followed by MS Dhoni, where the focus shifted from the northern and the western zone to India, to the eastern zone. And being from eastern part of India, we felt proud that we have a captain from Bengal who is leading the team. And there was a greater representation of eastern players in the Indian team then. Sadly,
no, I don't think there was greater representation of eastern players. So hardly any.
Maybe let me rephrase mine. Maybe because there was a lot of enthusiasm, if I may say so. But after you left, and then you were followed by MS Dhoni, who led it. Since then, we have not seen very many players from the eastern zone representing, the Indian team, who are part of the Indian team. So, do you think there is a dearth of talent, if I may put it that way, or what would be the possible reason for that?
For me, when I picked a squad, when I became captain, I did it on merit. It was no east, west, north, south, or Central. It was about the best players playing for India, and I managed to do that. And to be honest, I saw that culture getting into Indian cricket, and then Dravid became captain after me. Then Anil came, and then MS Dhoni became captain, then Virat, then Rohit, and the same trend continued. The best people were picked for India. Coming back to your second question about representations from the East, there are quite a few in this national team. After I finished, there's Riddhiman Saha who came in, who played almost 45 test matches. Then there's Mohammad Shamina, who's almost 70 test matches old. There is Akash Deep, who's a local boy, who's a Calcutta boy. There's Mukesh Kumar, who's a Calcutta boy. So there has been quite a lot of representation from Bengal. There is Ishant Kishan from Jharkhand, who's probably been a bit in and out of the team, but he's a Jharkhand boy. So East has had there's this Riyan Parag from Assam, who's currently in the T20 side. So there has been representation from the East in the current team. So I think that's the greatness of Indian cricket. And what has surprised me to see is that we produce fast bowlers from Bengal. Mohammad Shami, Mukesh Kumar, Akash Deep, who are genuine fast bowlers. To produce fast bowlers from the East, it never happened before. It used to be from the North, likes of Kapil Dev, Chetan Sharma. Then from the South, maybe to an extent Roger Binny, and Srinath came in. But to produce outstanding fast bowlers from the eastern part of India, it's been quite a revelation actually.
One final question, Sudarshan.
Sir, I have a question for you. All of us have 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of experience before we get into a leadership role in the corporate world. You guys come fresh out of school or whatever, and then straight you're in cricket, in a few years you're captain. How much, and you have to take big decisions, and as you said earlier, from your driver to the maybe senior most person in the country, everybody is following what you guys do when you tap the ball. I've heard people say, if I was there, I would have done this. So how much of the decision making is gut, how much of it is analysis, and how much of it is the support or the experience, selectors or coaches or whoever you have around?
I think it's a bit of both, a bit of all three. But see, the difference between your life and ours is we have a very short career. 15 years, if you're the best, you play 15 years. There are people finishing careers in 5 years, 6 years, people who never play for the country. See, in business, the older you grow, the more experienced you become, and you have a lot of opportunity to work 40, 30, 40, 50 years for the rest of your life. But for sport, 15 years, 16 years, and then you have to do something else. Because that's what the game is. So you get into leadership positions very early. At a young age, I became captain when I was 26 years old. And you have to take decisions which the whole country scrutinizes. That's why you see sportsmen becoming bald, grey, red, or look at MS Dhoni, how much grey he has. So you go through that, but then you learn. I've always said you put people under pressure, and the stronger ones will learn how to handle pressure. And I think we did that at a very young age. But having said that, sports is about youth. Roger Federer or a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Sachin or a Virat come in and be great individuals at a very young age. Imagine Sachin called being one of the greatest at the age of 20. Very rarely happens to common people or normal people who are in other professions. So you deal with that and you learn and you educate yourself in that process because you don't have much time. There's so many. There are lakhs and lakhs of playing sport and only 15 get selected. And you play in a team sport where somebody else is actually taking your decision. It's not an individual sport. Where you take your own decision. If you have a bad season, you work hard and come back the next season. But in team sport, if you have one bad year, you may not get the chance again to reselect yourself because somebody comes in, scores runs, and you're sitting out for the rest of your life. So there's a lot more pressure, a lot more challenges, a lot more insecurity, and I think that toughens up individuals.
Thank you. I think Q&A session, and I'd like to invite our Vice President, Mr.